I remember looking up a stat one day. It was kind of a fun one of like what school, like who's beaten somebody the most number of times or something like that.
Hmm.
And like USC has lost to something like 13 different universities. Florida State has only ever lost to like five universities. Right.
Welcome back to Coaches on the Beach, and this week we're gonna do the same old, same old. We're gonna recap. We're gonna look at some rankings. We're gonna talk about this upcoming weekend. Colin, how you been doing?
Doing all right, man. We got a new number one in college beach volleyball. I'm sure it's the team that people thought was probably going to make a run at number one from the start of the year. We had kind of a wild weekend down in old Red Stick, Louisiana, with some bad weather and some matches to decision. But it was a clash of the Titans round. I don't know, what are we on, four of the year now? And then, well, guess what? I know this will shock everybody. Clash of the Titans, round six
Coming again.
coming up this Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday. It's always good. It's good for our sport. It's been fun, but it's been a good weekend, Michael. How about you? You made it to Jacksonville and back?
Yeah. You talk about the clash of the Titans, and I feel like it could possibly be like, you know, pro level A, pro level B, NCAA level A, NCAA level B, and NCAA level A is just kind of taking a tour with themselves around
Yeah,
the country until the championship happens, and then everyone else's season just wraps up a week earlier.
pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, I've mentioned it a couple times. I do think there's a little bit of seed protection going on
Yeah,
up at the top. You don't see many teams outside of the top 10 playing teams outside of the top 10.
that's true. That's true.
And so it helps. I think one of our best examples is LSU playing, right? Got a win over USC and a win over Long Beach.
Hmm.
Those are good wins. Their losses coming obviously to UCLA and to Stanford, and a loss to Grand Canyon, right? Those are all teams that while that's a win and a loss and good matches and good volleyball across the board, right? You're not going to move. You're not getting any fluctuation there, right? I mean, you go 4-0 that weekend, great. You move up to five. You go 2-2. You're going to stay exactly where you are. Nobody's
Yeah.
going to do any moving. And so,
And
um,
to battle the other side, battle the sides here, talking about the top seed programs, like every other game would be just a trap match, and you never know what the weekend's gonna hold. You never know what the weather's going to be, and like these teams that are at the top, there's a reason they're at the top. They are very damn good. So it's like
yeah,
I understand it too. If I was in that situation, I'd probably be doing the same thing.
100%. I mean, you want to put the best schedule that you can out there. I think obviously we're a weird sport where we really do pick our entire schedule, right? We're
Yeah.
kind of the only sport where you're really doing that. I will kind of shout out, like, dare I say, Southern Cal gets a lot of credit in my book because they always tend to have matches that are quote unquote trap games.
Mm-hmm.
Even just this year, right, they got a match against Washington, Pepperdine, Concordia, Irvine,
When they went
Grand
out to
Canyon. I'm not sure
Pompano,
how many.
they played some teams out in Pompano.
Totally, Florida Gulf,
Yep.
Stetson, right? FAU, Georgia State, right? Those are all matches that like Palm Beach State College. I'm not sure how much of it. Well, they lost a pair. Holy smokes! Did you see that? Hold on, wait a minute. I gotta look
Breaking
this up.
news.
This is wild. What happened here?
Yeah.
Who lost?
Yeah,
This
I think like I give USC a lot of credit because they are the target for everyone, like, especially
yes,
after what they've done the past 3, 4, 5 years. They are the target, and for them to continue to put themselves out there, it's pretty awesome.
for
And
sure.
they do tend to have their ups and downs, but they always seem to peak at the right time. And maybe it has something to be said for the schedule that they do play, where it is some of those trap matches put a little bit extra pressure on them, where now in the championship, that pressure feels a little bit normal.
Yeah. I mean, they won national championships in years they lost to South Carolina or Grand Canyon or,
Hmm.
teams that maybe quote unquote you shouldn't lose to. I remember looking up a stat one day. It was kind of a fun one of like what school, like who's beaten somebody the most number of times or something like that.
Hmm.
And like USC has lost to something like 13 different universities. Florida State has only ever lost to like five universities.
Wow.
Right. And so
That's pretty
obviously
impressive too.
that's they're both very impressive numbers to me. What's more impressive to me though is you can lose to 13 different schools and still have
Still.
eight national championships.
Yeah.
Right. There's something to be said for the fact that you're going out there and you're constantly facing different teams and different pressures and different and you're traveling all this stuff. And that's not to say Florida State's not doing those things.
Yeah.
Right. But there's a moment there where you're like, okay, what's going on here? So dare I say, shout out USC who
Yeah.
suffered another couple losses this weekend, albeit probably not to weird teams. I'm sure Florida State's beat them at some point. LSU definitely has beaten them at some point.
Yeah.
But you're battling yourself, you're testing yourself to go win four matches at the end of the year. And as
Yeah.
long as you're in the tournament, do you really care? Exactly. Is there a big difference between the six seed and the nine seed?
Not anymore. With this single elimination, it's a one game thing, and like even if you walk in there and you're the 17 seed and you get to play whoever's the one seed, that's the one match you gotta wake up for. Because if you win that, now you got the one seeded uh, route all the way to the championship, and that's everyone's goal is to be the one seed, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's it's the same up and down that bracket. We are getting some storms right now. Holy, I don't
Yeah.
know if you can hear the thunder outside.
You cannot.
Wow.
Well, we'll try to move the podcast ahead so we don't lose Michael to due to electrical failure here
Yeah.
shortly. But shakeups at the top, right? Clash of the Titans, like I just mentioned, Florida State and LSU took down USC. Long Beach suffering a rare 0-4 weekend. Definitely not super ideal for them, but I will also say this is probably the first time Long Beach has traveled that far. I'd
Mhm.
imagine they're pretty much a California only program, maybe in Arizona from time to time, but California and then Hawaii when the conference makes them.
Yeah.
Uh, so a big travel moment for them going to Baton Rouge, facing some stiff competition. I think they held their own. They just didn't come out with any dubs. Texas playing some hot ball right now. LSU on a bit of a heater. I mean, they've slowly gone up the last couple weeks.
Mhm.
Um, Other than that, across the country, I don't want to say it was light competition. Obviously, there's some phenomenal matches everywhere being played, but it wasn't the ranked, hey, this team versus it wasn't
Yeah.
13 versus 14 or 15 versus 16, but you saw North Florida, right, played 3-2 with North Alabama.
Mhm.
That's a second away from being an upset, right? You saw Stetson, I think, do the same thing. They might not have gone 3-2.
I got to watch those two matches live, and like Stetson took care of North Al
Okay.
in the box score,
Okay.
but live that match was really close.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
North Florida match it ended 3-2, but North Florida had control of that match pretty much the entire time.
Ooh, okay.
So
Okay.
like if you look at that, like the box score is kind of deceptive in that first day. I if I was Caleb, I'd be very pleased with how my team performed both days.
Yeah.
Because North Florida and Stetson, like I very much after watching them play live and seeing it real up close and personal, I think they've definitely earned these rankings that they're fighting for every week. Like they are two good teams. They play two different styles. I think they're pretty good. And Florida Gulf Coast to me, like they're the team that's getting slept on a lot.
Yeah.
Getting to see that live and how Chris has got that team firing and they are so bought in and we were the fourth match of the weekend. Like they were still on firing on all cylinders and it was really cool to see a team in our conference be able to do that and look towards the future and say, hey, this is our level. This is where we need to get to, and it gave us excitement. We did get pounded a little bit by Florida Gulf Coast, but at the same time, it gave us excitement to kind of look for something to breathe. But yes, Stetson and North Florida being a little bit easier of a weekend for them. They took care of their business though.
Still good volleyball being played. And one more note on the Florida Gulf thing, right? If Chris can get that team healthy, I mean, they're battling
Yeah,
injuries
yeah,
left and right
yeah.
all year. That bodes well for him, though, going into conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I want to say, it is a shame. It's a sham and a shame. All the SHAM words. That the ace that the ASUN is only a one bid conference because
Yeah.
if you were to tell me Stetson and North Florida were in the national tournament, I wouldn't bat an eyelash.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, if you told me Florida Gulf Coast made it, I probably wouldn't be that shocked either. And don't get me wrong, I know there's a lot of good volleyball being played across the country. I think every team that's going to make it is going to deserve it. But to tell me that only one of those three schools gets to go is
Yeah.
still that's tough. That's a tough pill for me to swallow. It's a tough pill for me to swallow. And speaking of close volleyball, I mean, we watched Georgia State. I got to see it. I'll call it up close and personal, but we didn't play them, so it wasn't that up close and personal. They went 3-2 with Charleston and 3-2 with Wilmington.
Mm-hmm.
They battled some injuries as well. Wilmington's playing some really darn good volleyball right now, and so that's not a team that I want to play. I don't know, say two more times over the next 2 weeks, but I will. Darn it. Um, but that and Charleston, great. Charleston too, actually, great, perfect. All multiple times. Right, they're playing good ball. Washington, I think, did what they could to prove that they deserve to still be ranked in the top 20. Right, they beat
Yeah.
UAB, they beat South Carolina. They kept it close with Arizona State. FIU holding steady on 20 for not playing. But I'm also not sure that anybody really earned it from outside. Right, I think your best bets were your Tulane, who didn't play, so it's really hard for them to earn it. Florida Gulf, right? Not that it was an easy weekend. They handled North Alabama, which is a great match. Obviously played Austin P. Obviously played Eastern Kentucky and Central Arkansas as well. I'm not sure any of those matches do enough to push you into the top
Yeah.
20. UAB would have had to beat, that Washington team in order to, or the Grand Canyon team, or the Arizona State team. They had to beat somebody in order to earn that ranking. They did not. Who else?
Boise.
Corpus didn't play. Boise lost to Utah, right? That's probably a nail in the coffin for your chances of getting ranked. Pepperdine started getting votes after not playing last week. I'm not totally sure how that happens. Um, Definitely interesting, but at the same point, like I don't blame people because I started getting down to 17, 18, 19, 20, and was like, flip a coin, pick names out of a hat. I don't
Yeah.
know. Anybody could be the 17th best team in the country. It's hard for me to tell, which is really great for our sport because, like you said,
Yeah.
it becomes awesome parity. But at the end of the day, we got to pick 20 teams, and I'm not sure anybody's making it super easy on us right now
For sure.
to pick a top 20.
Yeah, I think I mean one of the things I constantly shout out week after week now that you've pointed it out of the do not play and dropping. Like we had a couple teams not play this weekend and they either stayed or they went up.
Yeah.
So we're improving in that matter. So I think that is something that going forward, now that we're getting into the nitty gritty, we're 2-3 weeks out from conference championships now. This is where the grind happens, and this is where you want your team to be peaking. And it's going to be interesting to watch this tournament out in California and see who's actually peaking at the right time. I mean, you can kind of base a little bit off of it this past weekend in Baton Rouge, but this tournament in California, I want to say there was like 10 teams involved in it or 8 teams involved in it, something
I
crazy
have
like
to,
that.
it's a big number, right? I mean, they're playing out in Laguna, which I am super jealous of. Like, if you've never been to Laguna Beach, the Laguna Open is one of the sickest tournaments played every year. It's right up there with Seaside, Wapaka,
Hmm.
Pottstown. When Todd every year Todd calls and Mike usually too, and they let me know they're putting it on, and I'm like, yeah, I would love to. I just got to fundraise 20 to 30 grand and we're there. But unfortunately, turns out it's hard to fundraise 20 to 30 grand. Speaking of which, shameless plug, Coastal Carolina Beach Volleyball's auction, silent auction ends this weekend. If you like golf in Myrtle Beach or want to get some sick CCU gear, check out the link in our Instagram bio to bid on some items for CCU Beach Volleyball. Don't forget that auction ends Saturday. Okay, thanks.
All
Sorry,
right. Speaking of CCU beach volleyball team, let's talk about your recap. What'd you guys do this weekend? How did it fare for you?
It fared well. We had a nice cozy bus ride from Myrtle to Foley, Alabama for our conference tournament. We were some of the first people to set foot on the sand down there at Foley, Alabama. We stayed in the international housing dormitories. I'm not exactly sure who normally stays there. It says international dorms. And so I don't know if that's foreign exchange students that live there or if it's workers or exactly what it is. But essentially, they have two. bunk bed setup, like double four beds per room and their own little bathroom
More
and
room for activities.
more room for activities. Yes, no power tools, Dale. It's my toothbrush. No, it's not. Anyway, so we got on the bus, we drove down, we got a little practice in before the before the sun went down. So we stretched our legs out and we got up in the morning and we had Mercer and I've been watching Mercer. They're playing some really good volleyball, and so I didn't love the idea that that was our first match getting off the bus. It's
Yeah.
kind of one of those where you'd like something to kind of get your legs going and start to get your feeling going. And props to our gals, our fours and fives went out there and took care of business in the first. Our fives won pretty quickly in two sets. Our fours, they just wanted a lot of volleyball in this weekend. That was what they decided to do. They played a wonderful 16-14 third set against Mercer, and gave us a 2-0 lead, which was nice, but at no point did I feel comfortable with that 2-0 lead. And so we went out there and twos and threes had a tough go of it, played some close matches. Our twos lost in three, our threes lost in two, but 21-19, 22-20. So not exactly blowouts on the board there.
Yeah.
Um, and then our ones did a nice job. They came out and they lost the first set. They were down the first set 20-15 on a switch
Okay.
and came all the way back to lose 21-19. So it's
Oh,
like
all that
there's
work.
there's some good momentum going. It's like, oh shoot, we might win the set. This could be cool. And then, obviously we didn't won the second. Third set was Mercer, and Josh and Rachel will tell you this too, right? Had a tough time. They missed, I think, 8 serves out
Mm.
of 12 opportunities in the third set, which I'm not one to really criticize missing serves, but at a certain point when you can't get anything going, you can't point score, that's tough. It's going to make it really hard. And so we wound up winning that 15-12, I think, and clinched the duel. And it's good. I burned one of those 3-2 wins, and I think very justifiably on Mercer. That's a good 3-2 win usage right there.
Yeah.
So had that one, and then took on Monroe for the second time this season. Did a nice job. We actually that one we lost at the ones in a third set, 15-13, which was hard for them to stomach. But as I keep pointing out, like, hey, every ones pair we're gonna play all season for 32 matches is gonna be tough. So you gotta be okay
Yeah.
taking some lumps and like, yeah, our team won. So I need you to be happy about that. And I want you to get better, but like also pump the brakes. It's okay. They're a good pair. Did that, and then we had some weather stuff. So our schedule got all changed around on Saturday morning. The weather looked bad. We had a 12-hour bus ride. College of Charleston had to drive actual minivans, the 10 hours from Charleston, South Carolina to Foley, Alabama.
God
And
bless
so
them.
in an effort to keep Damien and Shane alive, as I told them, please make it home safely. Our tournament gets really screwed up next week if you guys don't. Um, Obviously, a little dark humor. Damien appreciates it. All right, he's a good guy. But so we moved everything around. So we wound up playing five across against Southern Miss, and then also five across against Charleston, like an hour later. And Southern Miss gave us a good test. That our fours pair once again decided to play some extra volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
They played the second set to 34-32, which part of me was kind of glad they did. Because we were playing five across, I was on our ones, twos, and threes pair, so I didn't really know what was going on at the 4-5. And so we were winning the threes. We won the threes. All of a sudden, I see Chase, who was down on our fives, like kind of running over, and I'm like, win, loss. I have no idea what's going on right now. Our ones win, and then I'm sitting on our twos trying to help them. They lose a third set, 15-9 or something like that, 15-7. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, there's two. It could either be a 3-1 duel right now, or it could be a 2-2 duel. And it all comes down to this. And I see everybody on the sidelines and I see the scoreboard keep flipping. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on right now? And we win 34-32. And the way Sarah got up from the chair, I thought, oh my God, we just won the duel 3-2 on a 34-32 set. And all of a sudden the girls go, no, 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 Celia and Karis took care of business. They won in two sets down there. Oh, we won 4-1. Nice. Okay. But just goes to show, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's playing good ball, and then obviously Charleston for the second time this season,
Yeah.
going to be the third time this weekend. We're fired up to see them again. They made it home, so and we played some extra volleyball there, but won 5-0 for our first D1 sweep of the year.
There you go. And I didn't let you be a part of this week's coaches on the beach chair award for a certain reason, and you just heard it. I'm giving it to Coastal and Colin because the way their season has gone, the way he's bounced back, he's been able, and they're starting to peak at the right time, and that's a
Hope so.
hard thing to do right now. So, you can call me biased. I don't care. This is our podcast. We get to do what we want.
Well, I appreciate it. I was curious as to why we hadn't written it in yet. I was kind of like sitting there. I was like, oh, maybe are we doing this off the cuff, or we're gonna try to feel it out? And but I appreciate it. It means a lot because it was a long weekend. It's been a grind of a year, and it
Yeah,
feels good to go get four wins at the conference mid-year, right?
yeah,
Those are important matches, and obviously different setup for you guys, but you were at your conference mid-year,
yeah,
right? You went down to Jack's. You played some tough teams. You played some good volley.
yeah. The South definitely got the best of the North in the ASUN this past weekend. Um, I think, yeah, I can't remember if Jacksonville ended up losing to North Al or not. I didn't look at the score of that match. But I think going into that last match of the weekend, the South teams were they hadn't lost a match yet. So that was kind of brutal. We were hoping Caleb could pull it through for us. Um,
You did.
but
You
for
won
our
5-0.
weekend, I'm super proud of what we had to offer for our team. I mean, we started off with North Al, or with North Florida, and there's just too many North schools in
In
our
the South
yeah
region of
in the
your
ASUN.
conference.
But North Florida, our fours, it must be something with the fours this year. They ended up going three.
Perfect.
Our threes played a much better match this time. We struggled in other places. Our ones pair was struggling to find a way to score. We were ball controlling the heck out of the ball, but we just couldn't find that place to score. And I don't, if you know me as a coach, I'm very big on ball control. So that was a huge win for me.
Yeah.
And then we got into Stetson. Same thing. We were battling all over the place. It was a slower paced match. I don't know if that was by design from Stetson, but they were definitely taking the pace a lot slower than what we were used to.
Hmm.
And so they ended up going 0-5 on us. But again, a lot of good things we saw. Walked in the next day going over to Jack, so new facility that we haven't practiced at, and it's a wide open field. Bugs were crazy. We were getting bit up in the morning.
It's right on
Need
that little pond, right? Like the sail
Yeah,
team's right there. So yeah, I get the can
we
get a little
needed bug
gnarly.
spray, not suntan lotion.
Yeah.
But we came out pretty hot, and we ended up dropping it 2-3 to them. And there are some points that you look back on, and it's like, ooh, we could have had that one, and that would have turned into this. But fours again went three, battled, got the win there. Ones came out, battled hard, got the win there, and three as well. So like that was a really really successful trip. Florida Gulf Coast was our last match. I would say our legs were feeling it by that point. We weren't quite used to that humidity and that heat down there, and by
Yeah.
the time we got to Florida Gulf Coast, it was definitely apparent. But what I will say is like our team never gave up. In those moments, it's real easy to say I'm tired. We're getting our butts handed to us. Like let's just finish this and go home. And there was not a single ounce of quit in any of our players throughout the entire lineup, and I was super super proud of that.
Yeah.
So going into this weekend, we do got some momentum.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it works out. We're testing out a new offense this week, so
Ooh.
if you're listening, Caleb, Avery, or Jeff, be prepared. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said for the growth moments. I mean, hey, you've collected a 3-2 win at some point in your
Hmm.
season or in your year.
Yeah,
Right. It might not be this season, it might be next year, but you've collected a 3-2 win. So you've earned some credit, you've learned, and the group's gotten better. And the other three opponents that you played are the three teams that we just spent a good 5 minutes talking about being like, I could see all three of them in the national championship. So
Yeah.
it's not a bad spot to be at, and it's cool to hear the group fighting. And yeah, I can't imagine Clarksville, Tennessee experiences this comparable level of humidity and heat to Jacksonville, Florida,
Definitely not.
namely not in late March. I think those are probably different temps. So it's tough, but it's fun to learn those stuff because you're gonna get to your conference tournament. It's gonna be do or die, and you're gonna be like, oh, I've actually felt this tired before. I actually know what this is like, and so
And I also think, and like, not to call anybody out, but our conference, a couple of our teams, they haven't traveled very much from that South region, and the conference tournament's up here in Alabama.
ooh,
So that could get kind of interesting to see how they
ooh,
do with the travel. Where, like, we are traveled. We've been to South Carolina. We've now gone down to Jacksonville. We've taken a couple van rides here and there. Like, I think that could bode well for us if we can continue this momentum.
hey, anything can happen. Who you guys got this week? I know you said the
Yep,
name.
yep. This week we're going to the ASUN North. So we're going up to EKU. Like I said, there's a pretty big storm going on right now outside, and calling for some tornadoes in the area all weekend. And
Perfect.
so, yeah, Thursday is supposed to be the worst. That's tomorrow when we're driving up there. So that will be fun driving the minivans up to EKU. But there seems to be some openings in the schedule where we're going to get to play. Who knows what the schedule is going to actually end up being? But we'll start out Friday playing North Al and also EKU. They just got some lights on their courts, so those games will be played at night. We're doing a
Hey,
6 p.m. match, so that will be kind of cool. Get to spend the morning in the hotel and then play those two matches. And then the next day, we're supposed to play UCA. And then we're also going to make up a match that we had to cancel when we went to North Alabama at
mm,
EKU. So that will be the final match if we can end up getting it in. But that's kind of what we're looking at. So getting to see after all four of us have kind of gone down and gotten our butts whooped. Let's go play each other and see what that actually looks like now.
yeah. Well, I don't have to tell you to watch out for EKU. They're playing some good ball and doing a nice job. And obviously, North Al finished off they got their lone ace on North win by
Yeah,
taking down Jacksonville. So
there you
they're
go.
probably the team to beat. You're getting them twice, baby. It's hard to beat a good team two, three times in a year, right? Let's go. So go show them how it's done. But safe travels up there, please.
Yeah,
Much the same way I said to Charleston, I'm sure it really ruins EKU's tournament if you guys don't make it. So
yeah, that's
do me
true.
a favor and make it. But good luck to you guys up there.
What about you guys? Where are you guys heading?
Oh, we're headed all the way to Conway, South Carolina. Us lucky
Lovely.
ducks, we get to be at home. I'm excited for it. We've got UAB coming to town, so that'll be a really fun one. UNC Wilmington Lynchburg is going to come on
Mm-hmm.
down, and so is the College of Charleston. So Wilmington and Charleston, right? It would be our we're super unfamiliar with them, right? We barely see them. We never play them 4 to 6 times a year. UAB will be a fun one, right? I think they're playing some really good ball. I do want to send a get well to Delaney. So she's not going to be able to make the trip this week, but we will be. Hopefully, we can take care of the Blazers as much as I would hope they'd take care of our group.
Mm-hmm.
If I wasn't able to make it to Birmingham, and I'm sure they will have a little fire under their bellies to compete for her, and so we're gonna have to come out and defend our home courts right out the gate. Wilmington got the best of us last time, so we're gonna try to flip the script on them and give ourselves an evening in the series before the rubber match next week at the College of
Ooh,
Charleston.
ooh.
Lynchburg, we haven't played them before, and so it's always tough when you've never seen a team.
Mm-hmm.
I like playing them on the second day. Hopefully, get a chance to take a peek at them in the first
Yeah.
day. And then College of Charleston, it's hard to beat a good team two, three, four,
4, 6,
five
7.
times in a year, however many times we're going to end up playing them. It's always fun playing Damien and Shane. I will say it's one of the most enjoyable matches that I get to do because there's very I mean our sport's pretty cool, so I guess there's a lot more that I can do it on. But who often can you joke with
Yeah.
the opposing team coach mid match?
Yeah.
And Damien's good about that. So
Definitely had one of those moments this past weekend. EKU and us were staying at the same hotel. Now
perfect.
we're pretty competitive when it comes to the match, But
Yeah,
me and Jeff ended up sitting out back by the fire. There's a little gas fire pit, and we lost track of time. We were out there for 3.5 hours just chatting away. And it's just
that's
like, oh,
awesome.
it's midnight. We got games tomorrow. Let's go to bed.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it's cool. I like our sport for that regard,
Yeah.
and so we'll be having some fun this week.
Yeah. You got any matches you got your eye on for this upcoming weekend?
I do, I do. I've got your little Ace on South opponents. They are headed out to Laguna Beach. I can't imagine doing that big a travel this late in the year. So props to Doug and the Osprey. They're going out and taking on a gauntlet of a schedule. They're playing like 5 matches.
Yeah.
I can't remember the order. I think LMU, USC, Cal Poly Washington is something of the order
Yeah.
there. But I've got the UNF Hawaii match as my match to watch. It's the
Ooh.
last one of the weekend, which I think definitely plays to Hawaii's favor. But there's also that part of me that's like, ooh, I don't know, something to get on the airplane and feel good about for the Osprey could be an interesting one. Hawaii's got a lot to prove. North Florida's got a little bit to prove. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility for them and Stetson to work into that at-large category, but they need to go get some wins this weekend, and
Yeah.
I think Hawaii is an opportunity for them. So I'm excited to see that match.
Yeah. I love typing that into the spreadsheet, and it was the best in the West is the tournament name,
Yeah,
and then it's all the West schools and Stetson UNF.
yeah, perfect. That's who I think when I think of West, I think of Stetson and North Florida,
Yeah. Yeah.
as well as Long Beach and Stanford.
You
And
can't get any more West than DeLand, Florida.
exactly, that's it's over by the sea. We have some other big tournaments. I mean, I think the tournament going on down at Arizona is no slouch. I think
Mm-hmm.
Arizona and Pepperdine is always a good match. Utah's proven to be strong. Got like three of the Big 12 schools, four of the Big 12 schools there, and Pepperdine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fun way to do it. So ASU, TCU could be a big match. I'm not sure how much national stuff that has to do. Arizona State probably still needs to prove that they earned that at large, I think.
I mean, if they can take out TCU, I think they've locked it up at that point.
I think that gives them a really good spot on the alternative side, right? A lost Arizona or Utah or Pepperdine, right?
That's gonna hurt.
That's gonna hurt, right? It's gonna hurt the case. So Arizona State still, I don't want to call them a bubble team because it feels like they're on the inside looking
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
But it's important.
Yeah.
Now, for teams that are maybe on the outside looking in, we're going to Tallahassee. We got
That's
FAU, who's obviously going to try to win their conference and leave no doubt, but they got a little bit to prove if they want an at-large bid, and so they've got South Carolina, they've got South Florida, although I'm not really sure how you count the South Florida match because I don't think the lineups have to be official for that. I think it's considered an exhibition.
don't
Um,
ask me. Huh.
so I'm not sure a win or a loss there truly matters. But then of course LSU,
Mm-hmm.
Texas, and Florida State.
That
Those are
Texas match would be a great win for FAU.
be a great win. The LSU match would be a great win for FAU, I think, and those are teams that they have a shot at. They have a shot at Florida State as well. I mean, any of those wins, I think, does a nice job for FAU.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for South Carolina. Little bump in the road. Daniel Fu breaking the curse of getting mentioned on the Coaches on the Beach podcast. That UTEP team is getting better. Oh my gosh, they're a team that you're not going to want to schedule very much going forward. They're a trap game, quote unquote. So it'll be exciting to see how that team continues to progress. We've got a little battle in the Northeast. Cal hosting a St. Mary's, San Jose, Pacific, and San Francisco. A lot of Sands, which I think just stands for Saint in Spanish. So we got three Saints, an ocean, and a name of a state going on. So that'll be exciting. Shout out to Palm Beach State, a junior college down in South Florida, taking on some Titans with FIU, FGCU, and Tulane. They've got a stacked little squad down there at Palm Beach State. So I'm not sure that this is the weekend for them to go get a dub right there, but they've got some athletes that could do some nasty things and should be fun challenges for Tulane, FGCU, and FIU, who, two out of those teams are fighting for a rank spot, and one of them's holding on to one. So,
That's my match of the week is Florida Gulf Coast versus FIU. Give us a reason to put
ooh.
someone else in there at the 20 position.
Ooh, could be good. And FIU, if they take the dub, right, they prove they're the
Yes,
20 team.
yes,
So,
yes.
so that should be a good little trio of matches there. Chuck in a Palm Beach State in there to spice things up. Nothing to tweak the confidence quite like going three with Palm Beach State or even losing a pair and then having to
Mm-hmm.
go play FGCU.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, well, then we've got a battle in Texas. Sam Houston State in their first year is going down to Corpus Christi and getting some matches in. This should just be called the battle for Texas, pretty much, right? We got
Yeah.
Corpus, Kingsville, SFA, Tarleton, and Sam Houston. We're only missing a couple of Division I Texas schools. Most of them are named TCU or Texas. So, not missing out on too much. We're nearing the end of the season, Michael. I think records are starting to shape out. Rankings are starting to shape out. Arguments are being made. We did have our first big challenge committee email this week. So I'll be interested to see how that. I don't know if it'll have a huge impact, right? Because there's technically not any. Um, there are rules for our
Mm-hmm.
lineups, right? But there isn't any repercussions,
Yeah, there's no penalties.
namely for the order of ability one. And admittedly, that's probably because identifying order of ability is hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a cut and dry you won, I lost type deal. And that's mainly what challenges are for, right? They're for challenging order of ability. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to challenge somebody putting a lineup out of order. That is a blatant rule that comes with, I believe, a loss of point. I do believe if you have broken moving by one space rule, you lose that point even retroactively. But I think you're supposed to catch it in advance. I can't totally remember how that works, but I digress. So lineup challenges with order of ability are going forward. I'll be interested to see how that impacts lineups. If coaches listen and decide, hey, this is a factor that I need to consider, or if they say, hey, you have no power, good luck, and continue to do that, and how that changes some dynamics. I think we're going to
Yeah.
have some really interesting conversations going on going forward. And I, for one, hope I'm not part of it, but I would enjoy hearing the gossip about it after the fact.
It could be a
So,
fiery lineup submission for the championship.
yeah, I mean, and it was interesting because I was talking to Todd and Hector, Cal Poly and TCU respectively, and they brought up, hey, one time in NCAA Beach Volleyball, which is now let's see, 2016 was our first championship. So we're looking at 8 years, 7 years. We don't count 2020. In 7 championships, we've had one successful order of ability challenge. USC circa 2018, I think they had Joy Dennis in the five and Cami Dorn in the four, and they made him flip or something along those lines. I don't totally remember what it was, but I was probably right, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
pretend like I don't know. Um, that one time in 7 years feels unlikely, but are we gonna see more with True Volley getting added to the mix?
Mm.
Could be
Mm.
an interesting one.
Sounds like a topic for next week's episode. We'll
All right,
see you
man. Get some
then.
rest. Drive safe.
All right. See ya. Welcome back